Good morning. Welcome. It is Sunday, June 20th. How's Saturday? Did I say Sunday? Saturday, June 20th. I don't know why I said that. Anyhow, good morning. Welcome. My name is Angela. I'm a front-end developer and software engineer in St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm running a little late today. I don't want to say I overslept. I would just say that I slept in a little bit. And this is just where we're at for today. So thank you for your patience if you were waiting. How's it going? We've been working on this project for the last couple of days called Practice Layouts. And if you've been here before, would you be shocked to find out that I'm spending way too much time on the header? Like way too much time on the header. I don't know this. I feel like sometimes, is this a theme? Is this a theme? Hmm. I feel like lately it's a theme. It hasn't always been like this, but lately it just feels like a theme. I don't know. I don't know. I do think that our navigation looks terrific. I'm super happy with it. Here's what I don't love about the header. So we implemented the search for mobile, and the search is really going to be like a filter, right? I mean, it looks great. She's a little beefy. That's okay. Let me move this over. She's a little thick. I think that's okay. And then on scroll, we have that search. But here's what I failed to understand when I was implementing this, when I was writing the markup. The form and the H1 are siblings, and they are both inside this header. The form is always going to slide up underneath the H1. So we're always going to see it. You see it there? We're always going to see it. It's not going to slide up underneath the background of the header because it's inside the header. I literally didn't think of that. So I did have another thought yesterday evening while I was thinking about this, which is that, and I do remember saying this out loud yesterday. And I need to stop apologizing for how much time I spend on these things, because the whole point of these streams and doing these things is to solve problems and as frustrated as I feel sometimes getting myself into these situations, it's also like, okay, well, you don't know what you don't know. And the whole point is to practice and to just, tighten our skills, figure out new ways of solving problems, right? Okay, there's that. What if, I said this yesterday, what if we add a pseudo element, so like an after, to the H1? We position it absolutely to the header, so it's got a background. I think then the form would slide up underneath that. I said that yesterday briefly, and I remember sort of dismissing it as quickly as I said it. And then last night I was like, but why wouldn't that work? Because the stacking order, I think, even absolutely positioned, which you have you have complete control over the stacking order when things have that positioning within the limitation of being inside its container. You can never have it higher or lower than the parent container, but look at everything that we have inside the container that gives us control over that. So let's try it. Let's just try it. The whole point, the reason we're here is to solve problems. I have to stop apologizing for the fact that I find myself in a situation that I don't know how to deal with, and that I want to figure out how to do. I want to figure it out. If I wasn't streaming, I would not be apologizing internally to myself. I wouldn't be saying, "Oh, Angela, I'm so sorry that you're having to waste time." No, I would never say that. I'd be like, "Ooh, hot dog." a new problem to solve. So why is this any different? It's the answer is it's not. So let's put a pseudo element on the primary logo. And we're going to have to account for that in the footer, because if we put a pseudo element that's white on the primary logo, we obviously don't want that on the footer. So we just have to keep that in mind. We don't have to worry about that now. Let's make sure that the primary logo on desktop has a background color of transparent, because we obviously don't want that on desktop. And then in our media query, we'll do primary logo after, and we have to use the property content, because before and after pseudo elements were in their original intent was that you would add content before or after that element. So they will not even appear. Before and after won't even appear in the DOM if you don't have the content property. But of course, we're not adding content, so we leave that blank. I am going to say display block, but also position absolute. I'm going to say inset 0, which is shorthand for top, bottom, left, right. And then just to like really lock it in, we'll do width 100%, height 100%. I don't think you need those when you use inset 0, but old habits die hard. And then we'll do background color white. And then our header has a Z index of 3. It's a good idea to put a Z index on this. I'm not sure what we need. Maybe 4, because we want it to just sit above that layer, but I'm not sure. That didn't work. Let's see here. Should be relative to this. Yeah. Oh, you know what? It could be because of the footer. What did I literally say? The footer. So let's do header. We'll just make this a little more specific. There we go. So that was happening because of the footer. We're still seeing header, primary logo. Oh, it's not. Okay, now we're getting someplace. Probably, okay, but this is -1. So let's, I need a different color. I need a different color temporarily, just so I can see what's going on. So, okay, so -1 does still put this behind. This, though, is still coming up, so maybe this needs to be -2. You guys, we did it. That was it. That was it. Okay. So I was trying to make this relative to the parent container, but we do want this to be -1. We want this to be -2. You know, z-index is not necessarily, even after 13 years, and I learned about positioning and z-index very early in my career. And I many times over the years have found myself in what I like to call the battle of the z-indexes. So my best advice to not get yourself into that position is to learn as much about positioning: absolute, fixed, sticky, relative, static, which is default, and z-index. Learn about those things early in your CSS career, or if not even early, just if you don't know about those things, I would advise you, if you have an interest and a desire to be good at CSS, it's in your best interest to develop an understanding around positioning in z-index. Avoid things like 9999. We've all seen that, right? Or 10,000 or 100, an outrageous number just because you think that's what you need. Develop an understanding of a child and a parent and what is relative to what, and what the stacking order needs to be in order to achieve what it is that you're trying to do. This is a great example. So, the white was just impossible to see. Changing this to blue, we could instantly see where that layer was actually going, and we could adjust our z-indexes. And this is a great example of not getting into a battle of the z-indexes, right? So now we're back to white. Let's see. Oh, that's what I wanted. That is what I wanted. This makes me so much happier. Hang on, let me scooch this over. Make this a little bigger so you can really see it. Oh my God, this is so frustrating that you have to just freaking zoom. Don't worry about it. Okay. There. See, I was thinking about this yesterday. I was like, why wouldn't that work? Why wouldn't that work? Now I feel a lot better about this. Okay, now I feel like I can adjust this animation a little bit. I'm also thinking about changing the color of this from gray. What if we made this blue? Like, what if we just did something kind of fun? You know what I want to do, though, is I want to change the animation. So we're doing ease in, out. What if we just slow it down a little bit? And also, no, the visibility is important because I think we already decided that if it's hidden, then it doesn't get focus. And that's important with visibility. If it's visible, then it does get focus. So I'm going to stand by that decision, that it needs to be visible in order to get focus. That's just the executive decision that I'm going to make for now. So visibility is important. So what if we did a linear transition instead? I think linear is maybe a good move. And then what if we just slow it down to 500 milliseconds? It might be a little smoother, maybe. Yeah. Honestly, maybe linear was the only change we really needed. You know what else we could adjust? Maybe the 50 pixels is a little aggressive. Maybe we can adjust this. Oh, wait. This is 100. I didn't even realize that I did that. So maybe that's why I don't like the timing. It's because that was 100 and I always intended for that to be 50. No, I think I will slow it down. Okay, well, I'm glad I noticed that. I'm a lot happier about this. Let's try 400. I like that. I like linear. And I think 400 milliseconds. I am so much happier. This makes me so much happier. I am thinking about changing the color of this, but I think that we should that's the thing I think we should come back to. I'm kind of toying with the idea of changing this to blue and making the search, the icon, the SVG, and the border white, just to make it a little more visually interesting. But I feel like we should keep going with our responsive styles. And if we get the remaining responsive styles done today, which I don't know why we wouldn't, let's come back to this and maybe change the color. The next thing to do, obviously, is working on the JavaScript, and I'm not done with my JSON yet. I'm going to try to work on that tomorrow morning, which means I have to be committed to getting up on time, to getting up early tomorrow morning to do that. But that's like the next thing that we need to do, and I need to get that done. I'm very happy with this. This makes me much happier. Yeah. Okay. Oof, I'm glad I did that. Let's make sure we didn't ruin anything on desktop. I don't think we did. I'm not sure it would even matter. I mean, everything looks okay. And we set the background on the H1 to transparent, and that is only that class, that pseudo element only exists on mobile anyways. You know, we don't even need background color transparent because the background color is on the pseudo element, so we don't even need that here. Doesn't even matter. Yeah. All right. Well, that was good. That was good. See, you need a little suffering sometimes. It needs to be a little painful. That's how we learn. It needs to be a little painful sometimes. Okay. I have an idea for what we could maybe do with this. But let's get the rest of our responsive stuff done. Let me move this. Well, let me say good morning to some folks in the chat. Gogo Elmo is here. Malik Robinson and Monique Robinson are the mods in the chat. They're not related. It's just a coincidence, but they keep an eye on everybody. They keep an eye on me. They keep an eye on you. They keep everything fast, fun, and friendly. Lex is here and says, hello, Angela. It's all part of the process for everyone. It's all part of the process for everyone. It's hugely valuable to be able to watch you and actually see the code and follow your thinking. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Of all the comments that I get, that's probably the most common comment that I get, that people appreciate seeing the thought process. And that was always my intention with this channel, was to because that really helped me when I was a developer learning back in the 2010s, right? 2009, 2010 is when I started. And I remember watching, I've talked about this before, the Chris Coyier videos on CSS tricks. He built a back end, I guess, like e-learning type part of his of CSS tricks called The Lodge, where he just recorded himself rebuilding CSS tricks at the time and recording the process. And it was hearing the thought process, hearing him talk through how he was solving those problems that was just so wildly valuable for me as a new developer. And I've ever since then, I've had this constant running dialogue in my own head as I work. And for years I've been saying, start a YouTube channel, show people the process, let them hear you think out loud. And during COVID, when everybody was starting a YouTube channel, I mean, can you even imagine if I had done this, started during COVID, during 2020, when we were all at home sitting around doing nothing, where we'd be now? Um, I can't spend too much time thinking about it because I'll get upset with myself. I had the idea then, but I had somebody in my life who was like, nobody's going to watch that. Like, who do you think you are? Nobody's going to watch that. I got rid of that person. That person is not in my life anymore. And obviously, I started 2 years ago doing it. And I love that compliment. I love that that's what people are getting from this, because that's the point. That was the point. It was to practice and hear the thought process and to encourage people to practice and think out loud about the problems that they were trying to solve. And it's a little painful sometimes. That's okay. That's how we learn. Jason is here. Welcome, Jason from India. Says hello, hello, welcome. Yeah, so there's that. Hey, do me a favor. Would you be so kind as to like this video if you haven't yet? Subscribe if you're new here. I think we only need about 30 more subscribers and we'll be at 3,000, which is pretty cool. Coming up on my 2-year anniversary of streaming in August, and I'm so incredibly proud of the content that I create on this channel and on YouTube, the streaming, the videos, the practice videos, the project videos. Yeah, I was chatting offline yesterday afternoon with GoGo Elmo, Malik Robinson, just running some of my ideas past him. He was very generous he'll tell me if he doesn't think something's a good idea, but for the most part, he's like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And just some of the things that I have planned that I want to do. For the next week and a half or so, I am finishing up some client work. I'm at the tail end of a contract right now with one of my clients. But once I finish that up, I have like a million ideas for things that I want to do, including members only content, which should we just go ahead and give away some memberships? I think I have like 5 memberships that I can give away. Let me see here how I can do this. Here's the chat. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger. I think that I can membership gifting, buy memberships for viewers. Yeah, so I can send 5 memberships now. I'm allowed to do this once a month. I've already done 5, so I'm allowed to do 10 per month. So I'm going to send 5 now. So music collection, entertainment, Igor, Arush Singh, and ABQ Mirax. YouTube changed it from display name to username, so my apologies if I didn't say those correctly. Welcome to the Trad Coders. You are now members for 1 month on my channel. I appreciate you all so much. Make sure that the memberships do not automatically renew, so make sure that you renew. They're $4.99 a month. I try to keep them affordable, Pro tip, if you decide to become a member, make sure that you do it in the browser. If you do it through like the iOS app, the YouTube iOS app, there's like a 30% markup. So make sure that you do it through the browser. It's $4.99 a month. Like I said, I try to keep it affordable. Moving forward, the members only content is going to be frameworks. Yes, people, frameworks and libraries. This is a vanilla channel, and the free content will always be vanilla. It will always remain vanilla. But the members only content is going to be more frameworks and libraries. I'll be honest, I don't care so much about the CSS frameworks, but I am committed in 2026 to building 3 projects from scratch with Tailwind, Bootstrap, and Foundation. I'll do 3, and that's going to be members only content. We're also going to learn React, and by we, I mean me, because that's the one JavaScript framework that I don't actually know. And I was chatting with, hang on, YouTube Traversy Media. I was chatting with, like I said, Gogo Elmo, Malik Robinson yesterday. And I'm going to do this React crash course that he has. It's 3 hours long. He's got a lot of React on his channel. I'm going to go ahead and do this React crash course from 2024. I had a little conversation with ChatGPT yesterday about, is this still relevant? Is this still up to date? And ChatGPT thought that yes, this was still a good beginner video. So I'm going to do this React crash course, and we will build a React app, and that will be that's the type of members only content that I'm planning to do. So stay tuned for July. Stay tuned for July. This is the stuff that we're going to be working on in the members only section of the channel. So there's that. Everything else will stay vanilla because I think vanilla is still important, and I want that stuff to continue to be freely available. So this is my way of convincing you to like the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Join the membership if you're interested in that type of thing. $4.99 a month. And so there's that. Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, yes, congratulations to the new members. And Malik sent 6-7 for 67 joules. What are joules? Hang on, let's look this up. YouTube live stream joules. Okay, so because I'm a little fuzzy on this, YouTube joules are a digital currency that viewers can purchase to send interactive GIFs during eligible YouTube live streams and premieres. This feature is designed to boost engagement and provide an alternative monetization avenue for content creators. Joules, viewers, viewers buy bundles of joules via the YouTube mobile app. These joules do not expire, but purchases are generally capped at $500 a day, $2,000 a week. GIFs. When watching a live stream, viewers spend their joules to send animated digital GIFs that appear as overlays on top of the video. Rubies and earnings. When a creator receives a gift, it is converted into rubies in their account. Rubies are earned at a rate of 1 penny each, so 100 rubies equals $1, and are paid out alongside standard YouTube partner program earnings. Okay, so that's what those are, because I have been very fuzzy. I didn't know what any of those things were. So thank you, Malik Robinson, Gogo Elmo, for sending the joules. 67 joules. Okay, now we know. I had no idea what those were. I didn't know. So, okay. Much happier with this. Oh, and Malik says, I may have gotten the gems when I was gifted a sub. I never bought them. Oh, interesting. Yeah. YouTube is I can tell that YouTube is trying really hard to gamify. I don't know if gamify is the right word, but you know, TikTok lives and Instagram lives are very um they're very, I don't know, gamified is the only word I can think of to describe it. The way just the setup, the overlays, they try to make it very like they want people to be really interactive. They want people to contribute to creators, gift to creators, things like that. And I see YouTube going in that direction. YouTube to me, well, maybe YouTube and Twitch are like the OG streaming platforms, right? But obviously TikTok Live is hugely popular. I think Instagram Live is also fairly popular as well, right? But those have really colorful overlays for those lives, and I can see YouTube going in that direction, and I think that's why they're doing that, the jewels and the rubies and things like that. It's an affordable way. It's an affordable, animated, colorful way for people to gift. So it's just my observation of the direction that YouTube is going. So there's that. Okay. Okay. So let's keep going with our responsive styles. I think first of all, we need to make sure that when we're at the top of the page, well, we didn't style our skip nav yet, did we? So let's make sure that our skip nav is styled right here. So visibility hidden, position fixed. Hidden means it's hidden from screen readers. So we want this to be visible when it's focused. So that is for a screen reader. Once a screen reader gets it gets focused from the screen reader, and keyboard navigation. But also, let's look at the markup. So we actually don't want the nav element. We want the anchor element, because anchor elements by default get the focus, right? It's not the nav element that gets the focus. So let's adjust these styles a little bit. Whoops. So instead of styling the skip nav, we're going to style the anchor element instead. And I don't think that that's going to even matter. There. So we're not worried about this element. We're concerned with this element. And it's not really styled yet, but I just want to get this in place. So it's skip nav, anchor element, focus. And then that would be visibility, visible. And again, it comes immediately before. Oh, we didn't get focus. How come you didn't get focus? Should have gotten focus, but it didn't. Did it not get focus because of this? It couldn't get focus because it was visibility hidden. So I think I have to I can't remember, how did I style this last time? So there's our skip nav. I think what did I do last time? Font size 0? Font size 0. Padding 0. And then when it gets focus, font size 1 rem, and then we'll just do padding 1 rem. So there it is, 0 by 0 pixels, perfect. Beautiful. There's our skip nav. And then we hit enter on the keyboard and we skip the nav and we go directly to the main body content. That's exactly what we want. A skip nav is literally skip the navigation. It's not skip the header. So if you have a big juicy header with lots and lots of stuff and you feel like you need to also give users the ability to skip the header, which I would advise that you at least have them land on the H1 first before you do that. Have them land on the H1 first, then let them skip the header. But it's not both things. You can do two. Do a skip header and then do a skip nav and let the user decide. The other thing, and I talked about this yesterday, is we don't need a skip nav for mobile because we already have a button that the user interacts with in order to see the navigation. They're already being given the choice of interacting with the button, opening the drawer, and seeing the navigation. They are allowed to skip the navigation by tabbing past the button. So we don't need both. We don't need a button that opens the navigation and then another skip nav to skip the nav. So we're going to make sure that the skip nav is display none for mobile. So there's that. One moment, please. So let's make sure that this has a background. So I'm going to say background color transparent, color white. And then here we'll say background color blue. Actually, I'm going to say transparent here too, even though it's like 0. All right, so there we go. 0 by 0. Beautiful. It does its job perfectly. Love it. All right. Okay. But this is going to be display none. Display none on mobile right here. So I'm actually going to say skip nav, comma, skip nav, anchor element, display none. So here we are on mobile. Beautiful. So you can see here that you just, if you don't want to interact with this button, you're skipping the nav. You just go right past it. But if you do want to interact with the button, now you're inside the nav. And then we also have the escape key to close that if we need to. Love it. Love, love, love it. And this is display none, display none. Excellent. Okay. There we go. What's next? What's next? So now let's make sure that our main content, we're just going to push this down a little bit. This is the hero. Just needs a little bit of padding for mobile. The hero has 2 rows of padding on the top and bottom and 0 on the left and right. Make this a little bigger here. So what do we need? Maybe 6 rems. That looks pretty good. So that's going to be our padding for mobile on the hero element. And we already have a hero element defined in our media query, so we can use that. Right here. So we'll say padding 6 rems, 0 on the left and right, and I'm just going to say 1 rem on the bottom for mobile. And then, of course, you never even see all that space because as we scroll, you just scroll past it. Beautiful. Love it. I'm just feeling so much better about this. Yesterday, I was just like, I don't like it. It looks ugly. It's not functioning the way I want it to. And today, I'm in love. I'm in love. Yeah. Okay. Next, we really need to make sure, so I'm back at 100%. And this is not, well, let's go ahead and let's get our grid situated, and then we can come back up and figure out what we're going to do with these hero items. So let's do that first. So that's here, this wrap right here. And we're using grid, and we're just going to drop that into 1 column because why not? Let's see here. So I think we have that up here. Okay. Right here. So we'll do a media query, max width, and we'll say grid, template columns, 1 FR. Oh, hang on. Main. And we just want the wrap that comes, the first wrap that comes inside the main element. That's why we did it like that. Not all wraps. Grid, template columns. We're just going to say 1 FR. And then I'm going to change the gap to 1 rem. There we go. And that, oh, probably our footer. We need to adjust the footer too. Yep, that's fine. Okay, let's figure out what's had. The footer is the thing that's breaking the layout right there. So let's just take care of that. We'll come back and refine it. So here's our top footer, which is display flex. I think I'm just going to change the flex direction to column. And then we can come back and refine that. It'll take care of itself. So right here, oops. Flex direction, column. There we go. Honestly, there's clearly not that much to do in the footer. And I think we can just go ahead and add a gap. So I don't know. I like to make sure that if I have something that I'm transitioning from desktop to mobile with the media query, that I have it defined in both places. Not always, but most of the time. I try to do that. There, so now we've got a little bit of a gap. And our layout is fixed. So clearly, these are the things that we need to keep working on here. I feel like our video is going to be just fine. We're not going to need to do anything for the video. I don't have sidebar items yet, but I already have an idea of what those are going to need to look like on mobile. Once we get those populated, we'll take care of it. You know what I would like to do? This is kind of a little thing, but in the bottom footer here, I want on mobile for all rights reserved to come after. So let's do that. So this is all one paragraph. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this in a span. All rights reserved is going to go in a span. Spans by default are inline elements. So this will continue to flow and you won't even know it's there. Right? Here's the span. So on mobile, we're going to say bottom footer. We already have this span. We don't want this span. We want this span right here. So I'm going to say the anchor element plus the span. That's how we specify that. Make this span block level. Should be an easy way to do that. So here's our bottom footer. Bottom footer. And it's the paragraph plus span because they are sibling elements. Display block. So at 960, that's going to go to its own line. What? Bottom footer, paragraph. Oh, anchor element. Anchor element plus span. There we go. Look at that. Whoops, my giant head's in the way. Hang on. There it is. So now that falls to its own line. Such an easy way to deal with things. Perfect. Honestly, the footer is like, do we even need to do anything else to the footer? I don't think so. That's about as easy as that gets in the footer. And little things like this, where you can kind of control even where a sentence breaks or two sentences break inside of a paragraph element, those are nice little touches. Osloy is here. Good morning. Good morning, Osloy. Thanks for coming to hang out with us in the chat. Okay. So now we can start to think about what we really want to do with this. And honestly, it doesn't even look that bad. It doesn't even look that bad. I'm not worried about this yet. We're obviously going to fix that. Okay, so here's, I try to make things work down to about 320. Yeah, I mean, what I would like to do, what I think we should do is take this overlay off the image, change the aspect ratio of the image. Or should we just adjust the font size? Maybe we just need to adjust the font size of the H2 and I'll be happier with it. That might be a better move. Because right now, oh, and it's 1.5 ems. So we didn't even define a font size. We were just using the browser font size. So maybe that's all we need to do. We could honestly just clamp that, probably, right? So 2 rems, obviously too big. There's 1 rem. That makes a world of difference. There's 1.25. I kind of feel like we should also adjust these sizes, the project links. Maybe we could don't want to go too small. I actually kind of maybe like this for desktop. Yeah, I kind of like the 0.9 rems for desktop. Maybe I like the 1.25 rems for desktop too. And then maybe we can just tighten up some of the margin. Yeah, actually. Isn't that like the gold standard? Maybe we can tighten up this line height. And then for this, I like that a lot better. We still need a little more margin on the bottom here. Yeah. And I'm questioning the amount of padding that I have on the top and bottom. I like the padding on the left and right, and we're clamping the padding right now. Even though we're clamping the padding, I still think there's too much space on the top and bottom, and it's because of the line height of the elements. Like maybe we can give this, we can cut down on this line height. There, that made a huge difference. And maybe we can cut down on this line height. Although I think this also needs What if we just did, yeah, so that helps. That makes a big difference. The space doesn't bother me so much now, and that is really an improvement. And it holds up really well. We need a little line height for those H2s, although they're not, they do wrap. That one wraps, but 1.1 is plenty if it wraps. So I'm gonna stick with this. So let's give this some line, just a line height of 1. So we're just really removing our default line height. I'm tempted to just make all of the project links line height 1. Oh, that's a big improvement. I like that. Yeah, that's a little tighter. I like that. And it holds up well. I mean, it kind of makes me feel like we actually need a little more padding on mobile. Yeah, maybe 1.25. Let's see how that works. I like it. That is a great solution. Just tightening things up, and then we don't have to drop that down. I feel like I need a little more margin though. See, I took out so much line height that I feel like I need more margin, which is completely fine. I think we just need to maybe clamp this, just this value right here. So, although I already know that I'm going to want them to be different values for mobile. So let's just put the margin in a media query. So that's mobile. That's desktop. I think that works. I like it. It's fussy. It's fussy, and that is exactly how it's supposed to be. I like it. Let's see. I think there's some folks in the chat. Let's see what's happening. Maverick on says, "Good morning. I'm a developer here in Brazil, and I wanted to say that your work is very inspiring. Keep it up." Thank you. Night Vengeance is here and says, "Hello. What are you working upon?" We are building kind of a blog style landing page. These are for my projects. This is probably a good idea to let people know what this is. Practicelayouts.com is a domain that I use. I'll put this in the chat. Is a domain that I use when we deploy a new project. So deployment goes to DigitalOcean. It's a LAMP stack. We adjust our DNS settings and we just give everything a subdomain. And this is the domain that I chose out of my collection of domain names. And clearly there's nothing here other than some static HTML. So we are building a landing page. We're going to work on a JSON file that had just a local JSON file. So this isn't going to have a back end, and it's just going to be screenshots and information and links about all the projects that we do on this channel. Every time we deploy a new project, we're going to add it to the JSON file, and then this is what it's going to look like. So it's just going to be like a little blog-ish style portfolio for all of the projects that I build in the live streams. Osloy says, "Did your subscriber count triple?" Not yet. Hasn't tripled yet. We're almost at 3,000 subscribers. We grew 2,000 subscribers in a year. I know it's not like as fast as we see a lot of people growing on YouTube, but you know, it's slow and steady. We just keep showing up. We keep making practice videos, live streaming, and you know, the subs come. They come when they come, right? And Keshav says, "I have a question. If I want to learn coding and web development, then from where should I start? I am confused. Which language should I learn? Python, Java, C++?" Osloy's advice is Python or JavaScript for ease of getting set up and going. Yeah, I mean, if you want to learn, it all depends on what you want to do, right? Because I think that there's back end, front end, full stack. There are many software engineers that come into my chat and are not afraid to tell me that I am not a real software engineer because I do web development. I disagree, but okay, to each their own. It depends on what you're most interested in. I personally don't have a recommendation other than I'm a front end developer, so I'm always going to recommend front end. I think what's more important though is that you ask yourself, what are you interested in? Do you like front end? Do you want to build for the browser? Is that what you're into? Or do you want to be a programmer? Are you into algorithms and back end and things like that? They're two very different things. So I think that you should try. I mean, I think Osloy's advice is actually really good because Python is very clearly a back-end language. JavaScript is very clearly, well, you can use JavaScript with Node as a back-end language, but it was, you know, built and intended to be client-side, right? So I think you should dabble and see what you like and see what you're interested in, because you will spend thousands of hours of your life practicing and learning to get better at it, and you should do something that you actually enjoy. So I don't have a recommendation. My best on which programming language you should try. My recommendation is try a couple different things and see what you like, and then you make the decision about what it is that you want to do. That's my best advice. And Osloy says the stuff you learn in one language carries over to the other languages. This is also absolutely true. Once you understand the core foundational concepts like a for loop, those things it makes it easier to understand what's happening in other languages because the concepts are still the same. It's just the syntax that tends to change. So Mavericken says, learning the basics first, logical thinking and algorithms. After that, the language is something that you can port to one another. I would agree with that. And Mavericken says for web, focus on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript first. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I understand why frameworks and libraries are incredibly popular and they create consistency and enterprise level websites. I get why those things are widely used and why they are so good for streamlining work. So I would never, ever suggest that you don't need to do those things in order to be a front-end developer. But I will remind you that understanding the basics of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are vital. They are very important. And there are front-end developers out there who are deep into frameworks and libraries, and they don't have a good core understanding of the basics and vanilla. And the whole point of this channel is to just remind people like, hey, this stuff is still actually important because HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, those are the three things that the browser renders natively. They matter. They're still important. And I can tell you that I've been a new developer in many situations, and it's pretty rare that you walk in as a new junior or mid-level developer and you're being given brand new React apps to build or work on. You're probably going to get like a backlog of tasks, legacy code that's still being maintained that is, by the way, still perfectly good and worth maintaining. And a lot of that's going to have vanilla. And I think you need to know how to do that. You're going to need to know how to do that in order to work on that stuff. So don't let Dev YouTube convince you that every organization, every team is running the most modern tech stack. And I've had developers in my comment section also tell me that I'm working from an outdated tech stack perspective, that what I'm doing provides no value. It actually sets development back to teach these things or to in any way indicate that these things are still important. And I absolutely disagree with that. And it just goes to show that there are a lot of people out there drinking the Kool-Aid, or they're just part of an environment where they get to do all the shiny new things. And they're never faced with needing to work on a legacy code base like most of us will have to do. Most of us will continue to work on legacy code bases. We won't all be working on the newest tech stacks because that's just how it works. So, any platform where I can learn basic. Osley says your browser. I don't know if you're asking about the basic programming language. Isn't basic a programming language? Or do you mean the basics? Learning the basics, well, here's the thing. There's three ways to learn, in my opinion. There's a course, there's a tutorial, and then there's practicing. So take a course to learn the basics, and those are everywhere on YouTube. Just search YouTube. There are so many free courses on YouTube for learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So learn the basics, get introduced to the idea, and then a tutorial will answer a specific question. But practicing is how you really learn. So don't take courses thinking that once you take the course or you complete the course that you now understand how to do the work. You don't. You need to practice. That's the whole point of what I'm doing here on this channel. I had someone very early in my YouTube career come into the chat and say something along the lines of, I have learned all of HTML and CSS and 60% of JavaScript. What should I do next? And I was like, hold up. No, you haven't. You took a course. That doesn't mean that you have actually learned how to do those things. You got introduced to those things. You got shown some syntax and some basic problem solving. The real learning comes from practice. So if you really want to learn, come up with some ideas and sit down and build a project. That's where the learning comes. So Mavericken says a lot learned for LeetCode, HackerRank, and others. Yeah, I mean, it all depends. LeetCode is like, in my opinion, very algorithm focused, and not everybody in web development or software engineering is building algorithms. There's lots of people are doing lots of different things. So, and I know that Dev YouTube loves to tell us that in order to get a job, you're going to have to complete a bunch of lead code problems. That may be true, but if you're going after front end or web development, I don't, and you're being tested on lead code, that is a misalignment of skills for the job. Although that, let's be real, that's happening all the time in web development. I think web development is this crazy place where in order to get a job or go through the interview process, we have to do crazy things that have nothing to do with the actual job once you're hired. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't want to pretend like that's not the reality because I know that it is, but I think it's crazy. Osloy also says, ask LLMs to help you. That's a lot of the practice videos that I do on my channel, like, are a result of me asking ChatGPT to give me a set of requirements and a set of data, and then I go off and I solve the problem. That's very aligned with the type of tasks that I've been given in my career. So I love using ChatGPT I will say, give me a problem to solve. This is what I want to work on. Give me a problem to solve and give me some data. And then I go off and I work on it. And then I use ChatGPT to review my code. Yeah, and Osloy says that's what Angela has done for learning JavaScript. She asked for practice problems. And Keshav says, is it worth it to learn web development after learning how much I can earn? Well, is it worth it to learn web development after learning how much I can earn? I don't know. See, you're not, I need more context. When you say after learning how much I can learn, was the number higher than you expected or lower than you expected? I need a little context. Without knowing that, I will always say that it's worth it to learn it if you have a desire to learn it. In my opinion, we still need developers to do this work. Even with AI, you will still need humans. And that's a hill that I'm ready to die on. And I've had people in my comments section tell me, I have to remember that people come into the comments not knowing me or knowing anything about me, and they've already got a story in their head about me or whatever is going on in their life. And their comment is a direct reflection of them, not me. It's a direct reflection of their experience, not my experience. So I try really hard to keep that in mind when I get the type of negative comments that I get on some of my more thoughtful videos around AI and web development. I will always tell people that it's worth it to learn it if you have a desire to learn it, if it's something you're interested in doing. It would appear that it's difficult to get a job these days. And I don't think that is all due to AI. And I know that there are developers out there who have lost their jobs because the C-suite decided to replace them with AI. I'm not in denial that that's happened. But let's not forget what happened during the Great Resignation after COVID. Well, not even after COVID, during COVID. It was like 21, 22, 23, right? I mean, it was wild how people were quitting their jobs, and it was just like the attrition. It was insane. It was a revolving door of people quitting and going out and finding higher paying jobs, and how fast it happened. I think that tech organizations and organizations in general were over hiring. And what we're seeing now is a correction of that. I don't think yes, it's harder to get a job because there are fewer jobs, because organizations realized that they overhired during COVID, and now that's correcting itself. What's happening right now in tech has been happening in corporate America for decades. First of all, corporate America has always treated employees like shit, like they're expendable. Like, as soon as they need to maximize profits, they lay off tens of thousands of people because now they're not paying for salaries and benefits. this is a totally normal thing that happens in corporate America all the time. We're just seeing it now in tech. We also happen to be seeing AI coming up and replacing. It's a new tool that is changing the way developers work. In my opinion, it's not replacing developers. And I am so sorry if you were a developer who got laid off because the C-suite decided that AI could do your job. I'm not actually talking about you, okay? The tools are changing. Organizations will need fewer developers because they can do more work faster, quicker, and more efficiently with AI. It doesn't mean that developers won't be needed anymore. And I think that we're hearing a lie in the media because it sounds good, it sounds interesting. The developers, that job will disappear. And I disagree. I don't think that that's what's going to happen. I think two things are happening at the same time. The overhiring that took place during COVID is correcting itself right now, and AI is changing how development is getting done. I think those things are happening at the same time, and we are blurring the lines on what is actually happening. Just my opinion, just my observation. So, Osley says, I was guessing learn basic meant learn the basics and not learn the programming language named basic. Yeah, I wasn't sure either. That's why I asked. And Osley says, your browser, like Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Opera. Yeah, that I understood. And Keshav says, yes, I am just that an AI can make a website and then demand of a web developer will exist in the future or not. Well, I hope that my little rant 30 seconds ago answered that question. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen, right? I don't think any of us knows. I have an opinion. I have an observation. I scroll social media. I hear what other people are saying. Something that I really want to start doing on this channel is I want to start making more reaction type content to what other people are talking about. I can only talk about my own experience and my own observation. I am genuinely interested to hear what other engineers and developers are talking about. So look forward to more of that on this channel. I want to start doing more reaction type content and just hearing what other people are talking about because I think it's interesting and I want to hear about other people's experiences. I am just one person. I did have somebody in the comments tell me that my experience was nothing more than overconfidence and delusion. And it was not, didn't count. It did basically, my experience counted for nothing. I was just pure delusion. And that the only thing, experience must be hard facts and data. And I think you are missing the point of what experience actually means. Experience can also be lived. I know it's like pointless to argue with people like that, but experience can also be and is lived experience. We know that, right? And I have a lot of lived experience in development, but I am only one person with one set of experiences, and I want to hear what other people are saying. So. And Mavericken says, I hope I'm saying that correctly. I want to say Maverick Sun, but there's no S there. Says, I agree with your thinking about the AI. There's a lot of people selling the final solution. It's part of the game, and some people are paid to spread the hype. Absolutely agree with that. And, I'm not like a conspiracy theory type gal. However, I have seen quite a bit of content lately where people are talking about how is it that let's use ChatGPT as an example, that ChatGPT, the pro version, like not the top enterprise level version, but just like the pro version of ChatGPT is $20 a month. So I don't deal with any of this like token stuff, right? Tokens are not a part of my world. I'm not counting tokens. I'm not running out of tokens. But we all hear the stories about how like Uber burned through a year's worth of tokens in 4 months and looked at what they got for it, didn't see any value in what they paid for it, right? So how is it that the pro version of ChatGPT for $20 a month is basically a tokenless subscription? that we're not worried about tokens. We go to ChatGPT, we ask for anything, it helps us with all this problem solving, and we're not ever running out of tokens. And the thinking seems to be that this was all part of the plan, that Sam Altman and all of the Anthropic, Claude, whatever, whoever people set the system up like this to get us so hooked and so dependent on ChatGPT because this $20 a month subscription model is not sustainable, that it's just a matter of time before everything goes to a token-based system. We can't live without it. We're not just asking ChatGPT for help with our coding problems, but we're using it as our therapist and our doctor and everything. Every time we have a question or a problem or a thought, we're running to ChatGPT, and we are so dependent on it in our lives that they're gonna switch to this fully tokenized subscription model, and we're all just gonna pay because we can't live without it. And I tend to agree. Yeah, I I have so many thoughts about AI, and I'm not against AI in any way, shape, or form. I love it. It is so wildly helpful for so many things I do. And yes, I too talk to ChatGPT. It's great. I love it. However, I just lost my train of thought. I do think that there's something to what I'm hearing about this fully tokenized subscription plan where we're going to fork over whatever amount of money that they demand because we're so dependent on it. I lost my train of thought. I had another train of thought there. I think my thought was just that I'm not anti-AI. It's wildly helpful. And I would never deny that. And I love using it for everything. I love being able to talk to it when I feel like I need to talk about something or sort out a problem. I love some of the incredibly complex things that I can get done really, really quickly with some of my client work. I mean, you better believe I'm using it for my client work because I can just blast through some of these more complex tasks that I have. But I'm not going to sign away my life for it. I'm not going to spend all of my money on it. I don't know. I'm waiting to see what happens, just like the rest of us. So Osloy says, I use the model Big Pickle from Open Code. It's free. It's pretty good for me. Oh, that's good to know. I want to start setting up a local AI agent. I know that Kyle Cook had a tutorial on how to do that, and I would like to do that too. Keshav says, how long are you working as a developer and how did you start? I am curious to know your journey. Well, stick around. I'm not going to go through my entire life story here. I've talked about my journey many, many times. Stick around. Saturday and Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. I am definitely talking about my experience and the things that I do here. Osloy says, also, I can switch to using tokens from my API keys because I'm using Open Router, which helps switch between LLM providers. And Osloy says, I also have local LLMs. Open Router can switch to use those too. That's good to know. See, Osloy, I think, is a little more on top of some of that than I am. I'm just now, I finally downloaded the ChatGPT Codex, which has been wildly helpful for some of my client work. But I do want to download some of the free local agents as well. So July, I need to get through this client work in June. And then in July, I'll be doing more of that. Andrew Irwin is here and says, hello, how's it going? Hi, welcome, Andrew. And all right, well, that was a fun little detour. I love the questions. I love it. Thank you for hanging out in the chat. And I love all the thoughtful questions. So I do my best to answer questions and render opinions for what they're worth. You ask, so you must want to know, right? Osloy says, I use Olama for setting up local LLMs. Yeah, let me see here. YouTube. hang on. Web Dev Simplified. Oh, look, Kyle Cook has a React crash course too. I should do this. It's just under 2 hours. Hang on. Right here, stop paying for AI. The best local agentic. Oh, let me go here. Stop paying for AI, the best local agentic coding workflow complete guide. So I started watching it, but I should do Kyle's Learn React crash course. Learn React with this one project, an hour and 45 minutes. Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Okay. One moment, please. Whoops. Okay. Well, let's get back to it, shall we? We really have one more section that we need to. Everything looks great. There isn't that much more to do here. I think we should probably make sure. We'll make sure this looks okay on mobile. We just need to. Oh, whoops. Giant head. So our logo is aligned to the left, and that's because it's got the same class as the logo in the header. So we just need to change this for the footer. We can do that in a bit. Everything else looks fine. We're going to come back to the sidebar once we actually get sidebar content. The video looks fine for mobile. So let's just make sure that this looks okay. This is our main article. So when does this kind of start to break down? So what I'm thinking that I want to do is so this is Flexbox, which means so I have width 100% right now. I'm actually going to, for desktop, I'm going to give that a fixed width. I do kind of like that. That's 343.37 pixels. Let's just make that like and then we have to do, and then we have to define this then. If Flexbox is a little weird, I find that Flexbox is best when you don't have to define the width of your item. But if you have one child item inside a parent that is display flex, everything really needs to have a width. If one thing needs a width, everything needs a width. But that's fine. We can go ahead and give these a width. So So here's this. I'm going to change this to 325. What is this? Portfolio wrap. So I'm going to do, we also have a gap of 2 rems, so I kind of have to account for that as well. So I'm going to say 100% minus 325 pixels minus 2 rems. I don't know if that's going to work. Yeah, that worked. 325 by 325. There, that's what I wanted. I wanted the content to squish, not the image. I love it. Okay, perfect. So now we're just popped into our mobile, and then look how much space this buys us. This gives us so much. This gets us down to like, so here's 768. I don't know if this is true anymore, but like back in the olden days of responsive design, 768 was considered like the traditional iPad portrait, not landscape, but portrait. So I tend to, I mean, I'm not like married to a breakpoint, but I tend to go with 1024, which was a traditional iPad landscape, 960, which is like an in-between portrait and landscape, and then there's 768, which is like the traditional iPad portrait. Those are the 3 that I tend to stick with, but I also really try to just sort of scrub the browser and let the design will tell you what the breakpoint should be. And it just, I don't know, for me, I tend to stick with those 3, and I tend to like round up or round down, but not always. So here's 768. Here's the other thing that I would like to do. We made this a line items flex start because the image was squishy. I want to go back to that. I want to go back to center because I think it's going to look better. Yeah, I like that better. And then everything is, the spacing is down to a rem at 960. So I want to change the gap, which means that I will also have to change this value at 960. So let's do a media query. It's fussy. It's fussy. That is okay. It's supposed to be fussy. We're supposed to be paying attention to detail. We are front-end developers. We are detailed. So the portfolio item and the portfolio rep. I'm going to change the gap to 1 rem. And then portfolio wrap. We're going to change this to 1 rem. Calc. Look at this, combining percentages, pixels, and rems and letting the browser do the work. There we go. Okay, so clearly this doesn't hold up. So at 768, what are we going to do? I think at 768, we should change the aspect ratio of this image and drop the content below the image. I think that that's the easiest way to do it, and I think it's easy and it's standard and it's an expected behavior. So let's do that. So here's 960 Do another media query. So I'm going to change the direction of the portfolio item, flex direction column. It's the easiest way to do that. And then we're going to change these things. Well, it's already 1 rem, so we're going to change this. We're going to change the aspect ratio and the width first. So the aspect ratio, we're going to change this width back to 100%. We don't need this because it stays the same. And we're going to change the aspect ratio to 16 to 9. And then this is just going to go back to 100%. So we don't have to calculate this value anymore. Oh, and this is this because I changed it to column? I think I have to do, did I run into this before? Why do I feel like I ran into this before? There we go. That's just fine. Yeah, we have to do this here as well. I think it's because I changed the flex direction to column. It flips the aspect ratio, which means I have to give it a height of 100% instead of auto. This is what I'm learning. So if I give this 100% also, which makes me wonder if I can just do that. No, I was going to say I could do that globally. I don't think I'm going to. So this we're also going to change for mobile. So this figure also needs height 100%. Learn something new every project. I mean, can those just be 100% for desktop? Okay, so with 100, what's the, hang on, what's the aspect ratio of those? Okay, so with height 100%, we have 876 divided by 492.75, 1.777777. That's the exact aspect ratio. Should I be putting height 100%? I thought I had to have height auto in order for aspect ratio to work. What about this right here? It's a perfect 325 by 325. If this is 100%, nothing changes. So maybe instead of doing media queries, we just add height 100%. I'm going to have to go back and like look at the documentation on that, because I swear that's what it said. So instead of defining this, actually it would be this. Instead of defining that just for the media query, let's just make it. %. Let's look at MDN because I'm confused. MDN CSS aspect ratio. Okay. Let's read this. Okay, right here. At least one of the box's sizes needs to be automatic in order for aspect ratio to have any effect. If neither the width nor the height is an automatic size, then the provided aspect ratio has no effect on the box's preferred sizes. That's why I do that. Am I not understanding what this is? The aspect ratio CSS property allows you to define the desired width to height ratio of an elements box. Okay, let's do this. Let's ask ChatGPT. Explain this to me. That's why I do that. This is, we should just, the entire thing. Please explain this MDN documentation about aspect ratio. The way I read it, either width or height needs to be auto. I don't understand. You're reading it correctly. What MDN is saying is that aspect ratio only participates in sizing when the browser still has a dimension to calculate. So works, a width is known and a height is auto. The browser knows the width 400 pixels, so it calculates height equals 400 times 9/16 equals 225. The result is 400 times 225. Works, height is known, width is auto. The browser knows the height, 300, okay. Doesn't work. Both dimensions fixed. Now the browser already knows both dimensions. There is nothing left to calculate. One subtle detail. This doesn't necessarily mean you must literally write height auto. The dimension simply has to be automatic. For example, with the 100, okay, got it. The rule I teach people, aspect ratio can calculate one dimension from the other. If you've already specified both dimensions, there's nothing left for it to do. Okay, why does aspect ratio only seem to work when height equals 100%. My guess is that you're running into a different sizing rule, not an aspect ratio rule. Can you show me? Yes. Okay, it's too much. The reason aspect ratio appears to work here is that height 100% is not actually a fixed height value. The browser has to resolve height 100% against the parent's height. So from the sizing algorithm's perspective, one dimension is still being derived through the layout. What's more interesting is that in your example, you don't even need aspect ratio. Width 325, height 100% is saying, make me 325 pixels wide and as tall as my parent. Okay. Okay. So I run into height equals 100% when I use Flexbox. When the flex parent is flex flow row no wrap, then for mobile, I change the flex direction to column. I have to change height auto to height 100% because the aspect ratio gets flipped. That's literally, this is what happens. Okay, so yeah, it's a Flexbox cross-axis thing. In a row layout, display flex flow row, no wrap, the main axis is horizontal and the cross axis is vertical. Flex items often stretch vertically by default because align items stretch. So your figure may be getting a real height from the flex row, then height 100% gives aspect ratio a usable height context. When you switch to a column, the axes flip. So on a row, the width equals the main axis and the height equals the cross axis. The column, the height equals the main axis, the width equals the cross axis. So the known dimensions changes. Oh, okay, that makes sense. An aspect ratio might start calculating from the wrong side, which makes it feel flipped. For a portfolio card image, I'd usually avoid height 100% and let the image box be width driven. In Flex Layout, Flex Basis often gives you a more predictable main axis size than width height. For mobile, reset the basis width so the square is based on the card width. In Flexbox, changing row to column changes which dimension Flexbox controls. Aspect ratio follows whichever dimension the layout makes definite. Okay. Okay, food for thought. I should honestly do a practice video on Flexbox and Flex Basis. That would be a good idea because I continue to be, at one time I felt like I had a deep understanding of those things and I lost my way. Yeah. Let's see what's happening in the chat. I feel like, well, I feel like I'm happy with where we're at for our mobile styles. Well, except for this, we have to change that back. We need to make sure that I'm not going to change anything for now. But I am thinking that I will do a practice video. I think it would be a good idea to do a practice video for Flexbox. Maybe one for CSS Grid too, since I know like the basics of CSS Grid. And then let's do one final thing in our footer, which is this. So what's happening here? Oh, that's why that looks off. It's because so here we need to change for the top footer. I think justify, well, align items. Okay, it's aligned. So what's happening? I think we have to do, well, justify content is on the y-axis. Is it just that it's wrapping? Why wouldn't, if it's wrapping, why isn't it aligned? Do we just want to say text align center? Is it really going to be that easy? Yeah, it is. Oldie but goodie. All right, we'll just do text align center. Well, there they are. Honestly, it's been a productive couple of days. It has. Let's make sure that our drawer is responsive. It is. Good. I mean, we're basically responsive. So I don't think I'm going to do it today. We're running out of time. But tomorrow, let's just try to change the background of this. We're going to make it blue and white. But our mobile styles were done. I'm very happy with the mobile layout. So let's go ahead and commit this and get it pushed up to our Git repository. And then tomorrow morning, I am committed to getting up early, finishing the JSON file, and we will have a super fun JavaScript day. I'm very happy with what we got done today. Very happy. Um, mobile layout styles. I mean, if you think about it, because we've done a lot of talking the last couple of days, today too. In 6 hours, okay, well, today, I mean, in a week, excuse me, in a week's time, we've basically built out an entire website, made it responsive, uh, mobile header, mobile layout, mobile styles. I mean, I think it's remarkable. Once you just dedicate a few hours of practice time, honestly, I'm telling you, it's remarkable what you can get done if you just set aside the time to practice. So, let's see here. Keshav says, and forgive me, these are a little bit old. I am 23 and from India, currently preparing for a government job. Also want to learn a new skill like coding and web development. So that's why I want to learn, but I don't know how to get a job. Yeah, we're all getting a job is not easy right now in development. And here's the thing, getting a job was never meant to be easy. It's always been difficult, but I think that we were kind of there was a lot of overhiring the last 5, 6 years. And it made it seem like it was always going to be easy, and it's not. It's tough for everybody, even here in the US. So Osloy says he's looking for a job as well. Osloy says, I'm curious what the browser's algorithm is for deciding a thing's size. I wonder if reading the code would help, or if there's just so much to consider, it would be overwhelming. For me, it would be overwhelming. I don't know. Yeah, Osloy says, I would like to see videos from you on CSS, Flex, and Grid. I think that's actually a really, really good idea to do some practice videos on Flexbox and Grid. So I'm going to put that on the list. Monique says, nicely done. Go Elmo, good work. Osloy gave me a thumbs up. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, I think this is a good time to call it for today. Do me a favor, if you haven't yet, would you be so kind as to like this video? It helps the algorithm. It helps get this pushed out to people who might be interested in this type of content. It helps the channel grow. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'm here mostly on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, right around 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. I was a little late today, but I'm still here. I'm still hanging out. This is a vanilla channel. We just practice HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but I do have some members only content coming where we will be diving into React, maybe some CSS libraries, React, which I've never used, so I'll be learning React for the first time. Angular and Vue for sure. I have a lot of experience with Vue 2, not so much Vue 3. And Angular I also really enjoy. Maybe there's some Express.js content in the future. I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, so memberships are $4.99. If you are interested in that type of thing, consider joining up. It's a way to support the channel. And yeah, there's that. Also, but you know what? Liking and subscribing, it is totally free. It's also a great way to support the channel, helps us grow, helps get this out to more people who might be interested in this type of thing. We almost have 3,000 subscribers, which is pretty exciting. Yeah, like and subscribe. It's a great way. That's the best thing you could do if you're interested in supporting me, and I would appreciate it so much. Okay, tomorrow, Sunday, Father's Day, for those who celebrate. I'll be back tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. We're going to dive into the JavaScript and make this thing dynamic. I mean, honestly, at this point, we're incredibly close to being almost done with this. I do still want to make an about page and a contact page. So we're not quite done, but I feel like we could get a lot of the dynamic content in here tomorrow. I just got to get that JSON file done in the morning. So I'm committed. I'm committed. Okay, everybody, have a great rest of your day wherever you are, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.